I'm Adam Novak. I was co-director for To the Moon and cinematographer.
My name is Zach Schnitzer. I wrote it, co-directed, and I was in it.
Great. I don't think we have everyone yet, but the film board people, can we just go around and say our names? I'm Lauren, obviously I'm the president.
Sure, I guess I can go. I'm Eden and I'm part of the financial event planning team thing.
Yeah. I'm Sabrina. I'm on the communications team, and I so far have only been in charge of the YouTube page.
I'm Isha. I'm on the same committee as Eden. We're part of planning for fundraisers and stuff.
I'm Grace. I'm on the communications team, and me and Sabrina work on the social medias other than Instagram.
I'm Gabe, and I'm a part of the education team.
I'm Garrett. I'm also part of the education team.
Okay, great. Does anyone want to start with questions?
I think what I would like is just to kind of get maybe just a plot overview of your film, because I haven't seen it. Maybe also how we could watch it. That would be cool too. But yeah.
Cool. Zach, do you want to talk about the plot? Yeah.
For sure. Oh gosh, I need to remember. I'll give you the little synopsis and then I can expand a little bit. But what we wrote is that for the little the Instagram bio or something. The film centers on 17-year-old Mac, who is struggling to overcome society's stigma surrounding male mental health problems. And there's something he alongside three friends take an overnight trip to push his boundaries and escape reality, stuff like that. So yeah, that was a very, very undetailed version of the plot. And Adamson, you want to talk about the rest of the question?
Yeah, sure. So To the Moon is currently in post-production, so there is no way to actually see it right now. We are currently editing it. I'm working with our co-editor right now, cutting sequences together, so we could talk about that process later if you wanted to hear more about it. But it's a really beautiful film. We shot it over 2 weekends in October this year. And it was a super fun process, and it's been really cool starting to piece the film together, and we're super excited for it to release sometime 2021.
Alex, I know you were in charge of COVID safety. What steps did you take to make sure that everyone was as safe as possible?
Well, basically, we tried our best to follow what the CDC said, and obviously, when we filmed it, yes, those masks were also part of it. We had our own mask that was gifted to us by Zach's mom. So you may not be as cool as us when it comes to that, but you can wear your own masks. But basically, when we did it, the restrictions were a little less than they are now. So kind of have to, go with the flow. But basically, we limited the amount of people that were on set. Everyone who was on set had to wear a mask unless they were actually filming. We were supposed to take people's temperatures when they came onto set, but that didn't end up happening. But yeah, masks, hand sanitizer, limited number of people to only people there had to have a job. They couldn't just be, standing around doing nothing. Those were the main things. Adamson, Zach, do you remember any other specific details?
A lot of it was just being cautious and knowing that it is a concern and something you had to take account of. Yeah, the biggest thing is just keeping distance and wearing masks. That's what we focused on, and we were highly successful. There was no issues.
And in addition to that, this is something that it's really hard to control. It was, especially a couple months ago, we asked the cast to quarantine as much as they could for the week beforehand. And I mean, now that there's the access to the same day testing, that's a total game changer. But for us, we the biggest thing that we had pre-filming was the just asking them to quarantine.
And also, it wasn't with this film, but I'm actually in a group just like this at the University of Minnesota. And what they do, besides having a bunch of just virtual stuff, is anyone who's there, it can only be the max of 3 people. And no matter what you're filming, it's only 3 people, and everyone has to wear masks and socially distant, which is so it's super safe.
So I know you guys rented equipment and you did like fundraisers. How did you guys like go about asking people to donate? Because I know it's expensive. So like, what did you do for that?
I can talk about that.
Parents.
So yeah, I mean that was a big part. I don't. We kind of all decided together to set up a GoFundMe just because Adamson had worked on a film last summer and he kind of did all the finances by himself. So we figured having like this separate entity, I guess, to control that would be the easiest way to go about it. So we set that up, and most of it was just cast and crew posting on all forms of social media, especially Facebook, because that's where all the adults were. But yeah, that's how we ended up raising all of the money. Unfortunately, though, we weren't able to withdraw right away because there was a little issue with the GoFundMe. So we actually, the three of us had to front all the money for the rentals, which ended up being quite a big chunk at first. Luckily, we were able to do that. But you know, we've since gotten the money, which is nice. So yeah.
Yeah, and with that
so-
process, oh, sorry. And with
No,
that process, there was a lot of like marketing involved. So there was a lot of like pre-film graphics that were created just to like create almost like a brand image. So it was really marketable, so people could quickly see what it was and like gain interest from that.
And also on the GoFundMe, we had specifically what we are going to use the money for. So it's not just like, oh, we need money to do this fun project. It's like, no, we need money for the rental, for the food, for, you know, we hired a guy to do the music and everything. So being as specific as possible with what the money's actually going to be used for, the parents like.
In
yeah.
regards to editing, what kind of editing softwares are you guys playing around with, or have you like found a final editing software that you've been able to use?
Yeah, so our editing team is using Premiere Pro and the Creative Cloud with Adobe. That's what I've used for a couple years now, and it's worked out the best, especially with like the integration with After Effects, doing some of those effect shots, and then being able to mark it on like using Photoshop, Illustrator. That's what I've used the most of. But for making films, like you can make anything. Like I spent years making films on Windows Movie Maker. So the software isn't necessarily the most important part, but I definitely recommend Premiere. It's a super great piece of software to use. Plus, there's student discounts, which is nice.
What's nice with Premiere too is in the film group I'm in, you can like share the account information just as long as you have Adobe on your computer. You can just log into whatever account it is. And then so you can have multiple people editing or learning how to edit. So I know someone said they were on like education, something to think about, teach people how to edit.
Yeah, and going off of that, there's right now, so I'm editing the project and my co-editor is also editing, and we're able to do a team collaboration where the project is syncing back and forth between computers, which is super cool, especially during this time when you can't always get together and work on a project.
Do you guys have like an estimate about how long the writing process was for the film?
Yes. I you can write for forever if you want, but like I finished the first draft of the script, which was about 30 pages, and the final draft was about 40. The first draft I finished in about 2 days, but that was because I spent like literally the whole day on it. And then God, was it a month, maybe 6 weeks we spent editing and then going through a bunch of different drafts. So it was a pretty quick writing process in terms of, I guess, in comparison to other things. But it was about 6 weeks that we took to like actually set a final. And then even then we changed things while filming. So.
What kind of equipment did you guys? Oh, Isha, you can go ahead.
Okay. My question is, was this like film based off of like a true story? Like, did it happen to any one of you, any of your friends?
Kind of. It was kind of a compilation of a lot of things that I had experienced or seen other like friends of mine experience. Just because I thought it was a powerful story to tell. I don't know. Obviously, it's not all exact, but you know, it's, I guess, based on reality. So, in a way,
it takes inspiration from.
So, where did you guys get your equipment from?
Yeah, so for the past 2 films I've worked on, this one and then my film last summer, which premiered in August, I rented from borrowlenses.com. It's this national company based on a website, like it's all online, and you can essentially just order everything you want and set like a rental period, and then they ship it all to your house in a variety of boxes. And then you can use the equipment for that allotted time, and then you just ship it right back. So it's really easy and simple, and it's worked out really well. And honestly, for rental equipment, their prices are pretty cheap. I mean, it's still very expensive, but in terms of like purchasing all the equipment or renting the equipment for the time you need it, it's a lot more financially feasible.
Would you mind telling us how much it costs, like an actual number, if you have it?
Yeah, totally. So I can pull up just all of our numbers real quick, because then I can kind of list out what we got for that number, because the price doesn't necessarily help out.
We got some really nice stuff too. That's not necessary to make a good film too.
Only one thing didn't work. The what was it
Sorry,
again?
Zach. Your car mount.
That's right. It was a car mount.
Yeah, they sent it to us and it was missing the tiniest little piece, and I didn't feel comfortable with it. The film still is good though without the car mount. Okay, 1 second. Just need to find these documents. Okay, so in total, our rental was around $1,300, $1,400, which was made up of obviously our camera. We filmed it on a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K. It's a super nice camera. I really enjoyed working with it. Then we got DJI Ronin S. That's one of those like gimbal stabilizers. That's super good to use. Then it came with, got some like ND filters to stop down the camera lens, the car mount, a cage for the camera to mount different things, an HD monitor so we could see what we're filming, some extra batteries. What else? A tripod, the lens for the camera, and additional batteries as well, lots of batteries. An SSD to record onto, so a hard drive, and then a lens adapter, some other filters, and then the boom pole, and then the actual like mic itself for recording audio, because honestly, audio is the most important part. And if you guys would like, I could send you a list afterwards, after the meeting, of like that actual full list, so you have it in case you were interested in looking and investigating more into that.
Yeah, that would be great. You have my email, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Perfect. You can just send it to me. So how did you guys go about the audition process?
We started, the three of us kind of got together and we put together a Google form, just using some format for everyone to fill out, and it basically was, you know, all the basic information that you find on an audition form, plus materials for like sides for I don't remember, 5 characters or something like that. So we just we put that again on social media. It was a lot of that of us three and other people that were part of the process posting on social media to get the word out. And yeah, was it a week? Was it a week or 2 weeks that we gave them?
It was like a week. It was a pretty short turnaround.
Yeah. So then a lot of people got it in. It was, I don't remember how many people.
It was like 20
people.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so once we had the first round, oh my gosh, it's totally leaving my mind right now. How did we do like a callbacks thing for anyone?
No, so
Yeah.
once we had all of our auditions, we got together, we watched all of the auditions, and we kind of took notes, discussed each audition, and then started fitting our own cast list together, like putting it together ourselves separately. And then we got together and kind of discussed our choices, and then finally set on a final cast list. And then a big thing to consider when we were doing that cast list was scheduling, honestly.
Yeah, that was huge. That was huge, especially because it was really quick, just 2 weekends or 2 weeks, I guess, because we had a couple extra days. But yeah, it was huge for that.
Yeah, it's important to get a clear schedule because we almost had to recast someone because some of the timing, they didn't put everything on their schedule, like conflict sheet. So luckily we were still able to use them, so that was good.
Where will we be able to watch To the Moon when it comes out?
So To the Moon will first go on a festival run. We'll submit it to film festivals. I submitted my last film to several festivals and it was really successful. So I definitely want to be able to get To the Moon festivals. It's a really great way to like promote and show your work. And honestly, it's really cool, like just being able to like, oh, my film was chosen for this festival. Like that's super cool. So I would highly recommend once you guys start making projects, considering that route. We also are hoping to do some type of a premiere. It depends on where the world is at the time we premiere. But for my last film, I premiered it at a drive-in theater in August, and it was such a cool experience. So I really want to bring this film to a stage like that as well. And then eventually it will be on YouTube, but I'm sure that we can share a private viewing link to you guys if you want. We could do a screening of the film, a talk back maybe, I don't know.
That would be absolutely amazing. Just like keep me updated about like when you think that would be good. Would you be comfortable with me giving the link to more people besides just the board, or would you like to keep it within the board? Because either way works.
It will definitely be something we have to discuss at a future date. Once we kind of have the full film and everything. But I think it would be fun to, if we wanted to organize, and I'm just speaking for myself right now, but we could organize some events around it with your entire group if we wanted to do something like that.
Yeah, that would be super awesome just to get people more exposed to like, this was a student-made film. This was something that it's not unrealistic that we could do something like it. So could you talk a little bit more about the film festival, like how you submit and like what ones you're submitting to?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to start talking about my last film because obviously this film hasn't premiered yet. So my film last summer, it's kind of funny that it's called that, but last summer was sent to a bunch of film festivals, I think like around 20-25 film festivals over the months of like August and September. And right now, because of the pandemic, all film festivals are virtual. Which makes them more accessible to like up and coming filmmakers like ourselves, which is super cool. But essentially, you use this website called filmfreeway.com. It's a film festival submission site. Think about it like the Common App for colleges. And essentially you create a page for your film, you upload a screener of your film. So the film file, some like a poster, some photos, descriptions, of the like synopsis, various other things. And then essentially you just go through and decide, okay, I want to submit to that film festival or that festival. And then you pay them, of course. Film festivals are divided up where there's all these categories: best actor, best actress, best director, all of these categories. And you essentially pay per category, which kind of sucks if I'm being honest. But there's a lot of film festivals that are pretty cheap for students, which is nice. A lot of them offer student discounts. So really it's just a matter of like going through the website, seeing what film festivals are interesting to you, / what film festivals fit your film. For instance, last summer is like a high school musical type of vibe, so it would not work well at like a scary film contest. So it's kind of like fitting your film to the festival. But I submitted to festivals in LA, New York, Chicago, I believe. There's one in Norway, the UK. There was one in India, I believe. There was just like festivals all around the world, which is really cool. And if you start to market your films, sorry, I'm talking for a long time, but if you market your films on like Instagram and stuff like we're doing with To the Moon, we've actually, before the film's even done, have started getting requests from film festivals to submit the film to their festival, which is really cool.
One thing, just want to make sure I say this is when you're like thinking about getting like your film out there, maybe like you have a premiere, you want to sell tickets or something. There's some like legal stuff you have to think about. So like one of the things that we did is we had everyone who was involved, like seen on camera, sign a talent release form. And you can find like a basic one online. It doesn't have to be a formal legal document, but just basically if there's you run into any troubles in the future, it's gonna be nice to have like a talent release form. And also if you shoot at any specific location, it'd be nice to have a location release form. Once again, you can find like a general one online. And also be careful of what brands you have on camera and what brands are seen, because there are a lot of rules about how you can talk about brands and stuff like that. For example, we had a little bit of a spoiler. We have like a Shrek DVD in the film at some point, and there are some rules about what we can say about it and what we can't say about it. So just make sure to look all those up.
Could you talk a little bit more about the talent release form and like what it does?
Yeah, it's basically like saying we can use your face and make money off of it. So it's like they're basically signing away like, yeah, that's cool. It's kind of like when you audition for shows, like you're saying, I'm going to show up to rehearsals. Like I'm not going to get angry if you make money off of me.
What
It's
kind of
also
inspiration?
making. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
It's
What kind
also making. Oh, you can go. I'm sorry. My thing is not important.
what kind of like inspirations from like do you take inspiration from other films, and if so, like how and in like what ways? And like do you reference other stuff like within your like how you make your movie? Like do you reference other media?
Yeah, yes. I know that Adamson. So Adamson and I had to talk about this. I'm speaking for you right now, so correct me if I'm wrong. But his favorite director is Damien Chazelle. Yeah. So there's a lot of I don't know trademarks, not trademarks, but specialties that he has, like his fun little pan, his quick pan that he does. So we like do little homages to directors that we liked, but we didn't have. Did we have any specific references? I don't.
Well, I wouldn't say specific references. To the Moon is such an interesting film because there's so many contrasts, I would say. Like early on in the process, Zach and I had talked about how like Zach, when he was writing it and how Zach wanted the film to eventually become, he wanted it to be very like not the word's not choppy, like more like
Inconsistent.
inconsistent. That's the word you use.
Yeah.
So like we had inspirations that kind of led us there, but it is generally uniquely ours. Though anytime you watch some type of media, whether it's YouTube or TV or a film, you're gaining little bits from everything. So there definitely are even indirect things that we don't even realize. But I definitely know that my work definitely reflects Damien Chazelle a lot of the time.
How do you learn from like other films or like film history in general? Like do you have like I assume you do have a lot that you've watched before. Like how does that influence like what you like how you approach things, I guess?
That's a big question. For myself, so I'm studying film in college right now, and I'm going into directing. So this quarter, I took a film production history class, which was really cool to see the progression from like the early 1900s, late 1800s, and where film was there and how it's progressed through the decades since then. Um, I think the biggest thing is just to watch a bunch of stuff from all over the place. Did I ever expect I would enjoy a German expressionist film from the 1930s? No, but it's really good. Like there's so much art in this world, and I mean, I'm saying this, but then I'm like, I don't want to claim that I've seen like a bunch of everything, because I definitely haven't. But like as long as like put yourself out there, go watch a film that you wouldn't expect to watch, and you never know what you'll enjoy or what you'll find. As a filmmaker, I pay attention a lot to like how they made the film. I mean, I watch behind the scenes all the time. Like I love those behind the scenes series. So watch stuff like that. Really like just engage with those filmmakers and like see what makes their films, I guess.
Do you storyboard?
I personally do not. I've done it in the past for certain things, but a lot of the times for the films that like I'm currently making or have like worked on with other people, a lot of it is kind of on the fly, which not I isn't necessarily always the best thing to do, but is I've always found for me, if I have the vision, like I essentially watch the movie in my head before I direct the movie or film a scene. Like I have a clear vision in my head, and I've found that that is all I personally need. Now, that might not be for everyone. Some people might want to have that detailed shot by shot list, knowing exactly how they want to film it. But I've always found it's more creatively engaging for me. And I mean, if I was ever making a big production, I'd probably storyboard. But for these smaller student films, I've always found that I like to like have this creative flow and kind of envision the scene as I go and collaborate with my co-director Zach or like the people around in the room. So I'm not advocating that's for everyone, but that's kind of how I found my style to be.
The less cooks, the easier it is to do that too.
Correct.
This is kind of like a stupid question, but if you're shooting something doc style, will you need to sign a talent release form? Or like, will the people that you're featuring need to sign a talent release form?
So for documentaries, I do know that they typically have their people sign talent release forms. That release form is really important just in case someone in the future, as you're finishing your film, is like, I don't want to be in the film anymore, which obviously is problematic in terms of your film. So that talent release form really just protects you from that, because you're like, well, you signed off on this, like you're in the film, sorry. So I would definitely recommend anytime you're filming someone, you should probably get that talent release form.
I think sometimes in documentaries they ask that after filming them. I don't know how. I think it's a different process for going about that, like filming them secretly, and then you can ask after. But I honestly, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I think that's what it's like.
What would you say is like the most important equipment to have to produce a film that still like looks good but maybe isn't as expensive?
Okay, so a lot of my films are shot on my iPhone. Okay, you can make amazing, really cool things with your iPhone. Like the camera doesn't necessarily matter, but I said it before, the most important thing is making sure you have good sound. Because a lot of times audience members, when watching a film, if the video isn't that great, they'll still watch it if your story's there and if you have good sound. But if there's bad sound, I know for me, if there's bad sound, like I stop watching, like I can't watch it. So it like you can totally make amazing, cool things with your phone. I was in a class all this last quarter and like we made films on our phones and they were super cool to see what everyone did creatively. And as technology progresses, I mean, phones get crazier and crazier. Like the new iPhone can literally shoot in Dolby Cinema quality. Like, what is that? So don't let your gear limit your creativity. And I mean, I've always struggled with it too. Like I want a nice camera, but like it's not always financially feasible, especially for students. So your gear isn't necessarily the most important thing. The most important thing is your story. But if you're going to invest in something, I would say even like one of those Rode video mics, they have like, you can just plug it into your smartphone and get nice sound. So that would be my recommendation, is really focusing on sound and your story.
What were some resources that you guys used to kind of learn about different camera angles, how to use the camera, what it was like, I guess?
Adamson, that was our source.
Yeah, and then my sources was just years of YouTube, honestly, YouTube and just doing it. There are so many videos out there. I mean, Film Riot makes like wonderful videos all the time about film. I love them. There's Indie Mogul was a big one years ago. They are like coming back. And then like Corridor Digital makes a ton of cool content. There's so many film channels on YouTube that you can watch and learn so much about the art. So I would definitely recommend looking up YouTube videos, investigating like different editing softwares, how to use your camera, all of that. And then doing it, just going out and making films, filming whatever, filming what's in your house, filming what's around in parks, like anything, just make films out of whatever you have. And then the final thing I'd say is just watching films and like seeing like how a director creates his film, how like the cinematography contributes to the sound design, contributes to the story, that type of thing.
Also, the film class at Wayzata is pretty good. Like I think it's like one of the B categories or whatever for English or something like that.
Film lit, I
Great.
think it was.
So, have you guys kind of dabbled in making horror before? And if you have, what was that like? And is it different from making other types of film?
So I've never done like a full horror film, but I've done like small little things, and the biggest thing is like that creation of suspense and being able to like hold that suspense and like give a release to that suspense and kind of build up and like ebb and flow. I think that's the most important part in creating that type of film. Another big thing, like that's more story wise, but like sound design can really create that scary factor in a film. You don't necessarily have to see everything. Some things are just like the sounds and the sound design behind it can really create that tension and fear. So when making a horror film, I would definitely focus on like those elements, that ebb and flow of suspense and the use of sound design to really create tension.
Where did you learn about sound design? Like, I see a lot of stuff about editing and cinematography and like storyboarding and like that stuff. But where do you get information about like sound design? Like, do you have any like YouTube recommendations or anything like that?
Yeah, so I've definitely watched a lot of YouTube videos on sound design. I'll have to look. I will go find some good resources and send them to your president. But where I learned a lot about sound design is I sound designed my high school's musicals at Maple Grove. So I did a lot of that live sound, which then kind of contributed and brought me towards recorded sound and sound design in film. So I'll find some good like videos on like introductory sound design. But it's a whole cool world to look into. So I definitely recommend it if you're interested. But yeah, I'll find some good videos. But I know there are great resources on YouTube as well.
I also have a couple questions about music or like soundtrack versus score. Did you guys use any like copyrighted music, and like is there a huge cost to that if you do? And also like how hard is it to like make your own score, I guess?
Yeah. Are you guys good if I take this as well? Yeah. Okay. So with that, with music and scoring, so using copyrighted music is a lot of times a very expensive option. There are a lot of licensing sites that you can use. One is like epidemicsounds.com, or what are some other ones? MusicBed. And while those are still expensive, they're definitely less expensive than just outright buying popular music. And I mean, some songs cost thousands of dollars, which is obviously not even an idea you can look towards at this point in our like hobbies, careers, that type of thing. So a lot of the times you want to find non-copyright music or Creative Commons music. There's a lot of great YouTubers actually who create non-copyrighted music that you can use in your videos as long as you credit them. One of my favorite composers on YouTube is named Ross Budgin. I'll put that in the chat. His music is really, really cool, and most of it is non-copyright. So there's a lot of resources on YouTube. YouTube's the answer for a lot of things now. So you are able to find non-copyrighted music, but you can also go the route of composing your own music. Right now, we're working with a composer for To the Moon. And my last film last summer was a musical. So my friend actually composed the entire score for the show, which was super fun. So there's a lot of different routes you can go. It just depends on what film you're making and what you're looking for.
Gabe, I know you have some experience, and Grace, you both have some experience with like Grace has sound design and Gabe has actually written like a musical.
That's
So,
awesome.
could you go on a little bit more about like sound and like I don't know, do you guys have any questions about sound in specific?
Compared to like theatrical sound design, how similar is it to like for a movie?
Yeah. So with theatrical sound design, everything's live, obviously. Which means that the sound has to sound good in the moment, and then it doesn't have to sound good after that. Whereas with film, you don't actually, you're not amplifying it for an audience. You're just recording it. So it's a little bit different. We use different mics. For instance, like in theater, typically you might have a mic like on someone's face, but obviously you wouldn't do that for a film because you don't want to see the mic. So the construct of sound design becomes everything has to be hidden in film, whereas in theater, like you can see a mic and that's fine. Like there's a suspension of disbelief in theater for that, but in film that doesn't exist. And then it's just constantly like listening to the audio, but you're not actually like making it sound good necessarily for film. You want to make sure you get your base raw audio as good as possible. But all of the editing obviously is after the fact in post production. So that's kind of how they differ.
How do you do? Oh,
I can go, sorry. So with sound, I guess, did you use Foley, I guess? Did you look up sounds online? Did, like, for example, if someone's walking on grass or something, would you record someone walking on grass and put it in after?
Yeah, so there's a mixture of what we do. So To the Moon, we haven't done any sound design yet. So for last summer, we did a bunch of ADR. So that's meaning that we recorded a lot of dialogue after the fact to make sure our audio was really high quality. And then that's because our production sound was bad. It was a mistake. But essentially, sorry, where am I going with this? There's a combination of things we do. Some of it was recorded on set. Some of it was recorded in like a sound studio, which was just my basement. It's not as fancy as it sounds. And then other stuff is found like on free sound effects libraries. One cool resource is called Soundly. It's an application you can download, and there's a free version and a paid version, but essentially it's a library of hundreds and hundreds of sounds that you can just search and then drag into your editing project to add sounds. So that's a really cool resource to find a bunch of great sounds to really add to that sound design and create an immersive world within it.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
I have two quick ones. One is it's like for coloring. Like, do you ever think about like first like colors when you're shooting, and then do you add anything like afterwards? And then the other thing is like, have you ever thought about, or have you ever shot anything in black and white? And is there any easier to shoot it in black and white?
Okay, so for the first part, with regarding color, Zach can kind of touch on it too, but we created like an overall color palette of the film, and that even went into like the costuming, like what will the costumes look like, and Zach and I spent some time working through the costumes and that. Zach, do you want to talk about like the process of how we selected costumes and how we kind of followed that color palette?
I mean, that's basically the gist of it. It's just about putting together in your mind how you want the overall feel of the film to be. Like ours was shot in fall, so that was a huge influence on the color of the film already. Just because that can have a huge impact on the mood of the story. But that was basically it. We really just sat down and put our ideas on the table and just picked which ones we liked the most, and then we would send for the characters, we sent like individual color palettes to the cast and everything like that, and kind of exchanged ideas back and forth with them as well about their costume.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. So then we did focus on that idea of creating that color palette in camera, and we haven't done it yet, but we will be color grading the film and putting all those final touches, making sure all the shots share the same color palette, but also pushing a color palette grade as well, to create the look and feel of To the Moon. So that process has started already, where we're talking about like, what do we want this final product to look like? And for To the Moon, it's a very naturalistic story. It's very like raw in its emotions. So we're looking for a very realistic feel. And we're just gonna push up some of those like more cinematic feelings, but combining those like that dichotomy of realism and like the cinematic world. And then your second question was about like filming in black and white, right? Okay. With that, I've never shot in black and white. However, I did a film in black and white. It was a film noir piece for my high school film class. And I wouldn't say it's easier to film in black and white, but you can create really, really cool dramatic looks in black and white that you can't necessarily get always with color. So like with film noir, you have those really stark shadows and really vibrant lines. And that was a really cool thing to try and do in black and white. So it's definitely a fun world to like see what the possibilities are.
But like, is classical music usually copyrighted?
It depends.
Okay, all right.
Oh, it's all. I'm pretty sure this might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure all music made before 1924. I think that's the year. You can look it up. It's like just on Google somewhere. It's something like that is copyright free.
Yes. However, sometimes like different publishing companies have like recorded that music, and therefore that music, even though it's public domain, is technically copyrighted, if that makes sense. So like the version recorded is is copyrighted, but the actual score is public domain. So copyright law is stupid and just very complex.
Just look up everything. Like there's like not really a blanket.
Yeah.
So I know you guys had an Instagram page. I was just wondering if you had any advice about like how you ran that and gaining followers, things like that. Additionally, your graphic design, like the theme of the page looks really professional. I was just wondering like what softwares you guys used in case like if we make a film and I want to do some things like that.
Yeah, totally. I think Zach and Alex can talk about like the initial page and how that works, and then I'll talk about graphic design. Does that work?
Yeah, sure. I don't actually. I think I had the idea to put the Instagram page together because I knew another student film was doing it, and I thought it was really cool because you really got to know the project more because it's such an accessible form nowadays. But we kind of. I mean, the most important thing was the introductions of who's a part of it, because putting a face to the project was, I think it helped familiarize it for everyone looking at the page. I think that's the most important thing. And then of course the onset photos makes it super engaging for everyone. But yeah, Alex, if you have anything to add about that.
No, that was about it. Just making sure like, the style is consistent in the whole page. So, you get the vibe of the film.
Yeah. Totally. And with that, I mean, Alex took wonderful onset photos and really documented everything, which was super cool. But in terms of the page, it also allowed us to do fundraising. It was a great way to start that fundraiser in getting people to see the page and then move towards our fundraiser as well. In terms of like getting followers, a lot of it was just we shared it on our own personal pages, which kind of distributed it. And as people started seeing that, they might repost it, which got just a outward effect, getting more people interested in the film. And it's a great way in the future to publicize the film. The page will hopefully soon be promoting our posters that are in development, our trailers that are in development, all of those things, and starting to get the ball rolling on that second phase of the film. But for the graphic design, I designed
I'm just gonna budge in real
yes.
quick. For the promoting and getting followers, also getting other groups, like we got Blue Water Theater Company to promote our page. You can get like Wayzata High School Theater to promote your page. One little small thing, then we'll get back to Adamson's design thing. what the film group that I'm in at the University of Minnesota, what we're trying to do to promote our group is making little promos for other student groups. So it's not really making film or anything, but it's, practicing making content and getting our name out there so people know what our group's about.
That's
Yeah,
a great
one
idea.
quick one, sorry. We are trying to make like an intro video of everyone. We're gonna be filming it over Zoom, kind of like how we did the One Acts last year. So we'll write something, and we actually had a great idea. Gabe had this idea to have it be like different movie trailer like styles, and I don't know, we're just really excited about that because I also really agree with like it's important to get like your face connected to that so people know like who's behind this. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a super great idea. I'm excited to see it. Does anyone have any questions relating to that, or should I move back to the graphics design thing? Am I good? Okay. So yeah, all those graphics were designed in Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator. And essentially they came from, I started with like a color palette. We know like the night sky is a part of this, and like the theming is all about the moon and how can we show that visually. And since for this page, like the film wasn't made, it wasn't shot, like we didn't have actors, like how can we show what this film is about without having any of those elements? So it was all about creating that mood of the film and kind of creating an engaging design where you're like, oh, I wonder what that's about. So you have that little house with the two people standing by looking at this big moon. And that's kind of where the inspiration came from. But yeah, it was all done in Adobe Illustrator, but you could do very similar things in a lot of different programs. Another great like marketing tool it's canva.com. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's amazing. Like if I don't want to like spend a ton of time on something, I will make it on Canva because it is so quick to make super professional looking things. So I definitely recommend looking into that as well.
I've just been using PicCollage because like I was the only one doing this for like, I don't know, a while. So I just kind of was like, okay, we're gonna make it really simple. So I made the color scheme black and white, and that's just what I've been going with. But it's like kind of boring, and I don't know, it like knowing that there is other stuff out there to like make it look better, I guess is like reassuring. So
yeah, totally. And I looked through your page and I liked your like engaging the audience type things with your like, what was it? It was like some question you had. But like you engaged audiences in your page, which was really cool.
Oh, do you have any experience in like creating like a YouTube channel or like also Facebook? Because I was thinking we could upload this video, this like entire meeting, so that other people who aren't on the board can also like get this experience and knowledge of talking with people who know about this. So you guys have any like insight on that?
Yeah, so I have my own YouTube channel. I mean, it's not big or anything, but I've been posting on it for like 5-6 years at this point. So a lot of it is just like I've over the years created like my brand or what you could call it. So like everything is styled around that brand. I have like a logo that starts every video, my like channel art, and then the profile picture like all match. So, I mean, you can ask like specific questions, but essentially to start a YouTube channel, it's pretty easy. Just start uploading your content and then sharing it out. And then Facebook is very similar to Instagram now that they're literally owned by this Facebook, for better or for worse. But essentially you just like build your Facebook page the same way you would your Instagram page, and then go from there. I think the biggest thing is making sure, especially when you're starting this group and like creating your logos and your like brand identity or what you want to be portrayed as, to make sure it's consistent on every platform you're on, because then there's a familiar tone when you have someone going between them, and it just engages your audience more.
I think that's it, honestly. Thank you guys so much for coming to talk to us. I know everyone's like kind of busy with like school and whatnot and like the holidays, but thank you so much for taking your time out of your day.
Of course, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was super fun. I'm super excited to see what you guys come up with and put together. It's
Thank you.
awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh wait, hold on.
Thank
Don't leave yet. My bad. I was gonna get something for the Instagram story. So, thank you, everyone. Bye.
See you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.